Welcome back to the program. Our discussions have continued. Waheshimiwa, hang on a little bit. We are getting into discussion in just a bit. We carry on by taking a look at some of the big stories in the paper today. Obviously, corruption dominating our discussion. And on the front page of the Daily Nation, the smaller headline there is, "Want to kill graft? Start with the budget." For Kenya, the process of stealing public resources through the budget starts at the Kutenga stage. Although the eating occurs at the Kutenda phase. I'm actually reading what's on the front page of the paper. It is during the budgeting process when fraudulent and frivolous allocations, many of which are clearly meant to be reaped later, are sown. Some of the allocations are either repeated later or several times, overpriced, vendor-driven, obvious misplacement of priorities. It is at this initial stage that graft is planned and budgeted for. Then comes the next stage, adoption, and the vultures in parliament descend on your money like rabid hyenas. And for more details on that, you need to go to page 6 of the Daily Nation. And if you got a chance to read the Standard, I believe it was yesterday or the day before, they spoke about 118 billion in the budget allocated to projects that did not seem to be profitable many years on. They spoke about money being put in Galana Kulalu, talked about money being put into the Konza Technopolis, amongst other projects. And the writer was asking, why do we keep putting money in such projects which have not lived up to the billing year in, year out, and yet we still keep pumping money there? And we also do not keep the leaders accountable with what was done with the budget that was put in last year. Talk to us as well as you're watching. 2243 is the SMS line. Use the hashtag Power Breakfast. I'll be looking at some of your feedback shortly. But let me get the thoughts of my guest here, Isturi, about how to deal with corruption holistically, not just in one corner or the other, but look at the bigger picture. And I'll start with you, Senator. Let me just get your thoughts on this, the budgeting process.
I think when we talk about the budget, there is, I do have a bill in the Senate currently that I've sponsored, which is called a County Oversight Bill. That is number one. The bill aim is to educate and also ensure that citizens participate in the budget making process.
Okay.
The biggest problem we have currently in this country is that we as citizens are only given a budget and we cannot even question it. You know, so there's no way we can be able to put value for money. There's no way we can be able to say, no. Putting money in this Gulanda project year in, year out, and it's not giving us anything, it doesn't help us. There's no need, there's no way we're going to say, no, don't bail out Mumia's Sugar Company when it is like this, because it will still be the same problem. So I think the biggest problem we have is that we really are not following the Constitution in terms of public participation. Honorable Kangata came up with a bill, which maybe I saw it differently, that he wanted the ward administrative, whatever it's called, a ward what? Yeah, ward development fund. And maybe he could have brought it in a different way. What we need to do is that we need to build public participation halls in each and every ward. We need to involve the citizens, who are the ones who are spending their money, and on how their money can be spent.
Can you add public veto to public participation? Because I think,
well, I think
so that the public can actually stop a project if they feel it's not in their interest.
Somehow they can, but it's got to be not witch hunting. So you allow the public to be able to give in their views on, let's say, for instance, let's take a very good ward like Kayan Ward in Narok County. When you go there, these people, what they do is that they grow a lot of sugarcane. The first thing they want is to ensure that they have a good road. If you go there and you tell them, okay, fine, I'll build you X number of schools, and maybe they have enough schools. They need roads to be able to take their food from their farms into the Transmara Sugar Company for them to be able to get paid. Now, involve the public. But I always feel that when you have representatives, let them have that veto power. Because if you now say public veto, then of course, what is the point of having a representative in the first place? You've got a governor who is the executive. You know, the governor will come in and say, this is what my budget is all about. But then let's take it out. Let's go scrutinize that budget. Let's go talk to the citizens who are funding that budget to agree and okay that, okay, we're willing to spend our money. And this is something that Kenyans have got to know, is that when money is coming back from national government, it is not national government's money. It is our money. You know, we pay the taxes. This money is just coming back for us to be able to spend it. And that's how we have to continue funding. We really have got to utilize these two offices very well. Number one, the Office of the Auditor General. We must utilize it very well. And we must follow what the recommendations of the auditor, every time the auditor comes with a recommendation, we must follow to the latter. The controller of budget, we must look at county governments, because this is a new baby that came in. It's no longer new, it's a toddler now. It was a baby, it's now a toddler. In the first 5 years, you will see the way the money was being spent. No one would agree with them. You cannot spend them. And then we've got to be able to inculcate this culture of a company, like running a private company. If it is your company, you always want to see your company making profits, not losses. Because when you know it's losses, no one is going to bail you out. You're going to go out in the street and you're going to suffer. So I think here what we need to do is to be able to really push, ensure that there's proper oversight. Like now the Senate can do its job. The Senate can be given its money to be able to go and do oversight. If the members of the National Assembly do not want the Senate to be able to perform its task, then of course, there's no way we are going to say this has been done. You know, just the same way members of Assembly have their CDF fund, women rep have their own fund. The Article 96 is very clear. The Senate represents the interest of counties and their governments. So go out there, see oversight, see what the projects are happening. Then look at and see whether that budget really makes sense. Because you could see a budget, and that budget has been developed in a way that it's just a way of siphoning money out.
Honorable Elachi, come in on this. Let's talk about let's use one project as an example. SGR, second phase. Or you have another one there that you want to talk about. Okay, I'm going to give you my example, then you can give me yours. SGR, second phase, going through the Nairobi National Park. What can members of the public do to raise their voice further if they're uncomfortable with the route that it is passing through, for example? Because I know there's a function around that, actually, I think today or tomorrow.
One, I think they did raise their voices, and I think they went through a very long process. But then everyone came in with answers. Government came in and said, look, we have taken the corridor. It's not really inside the park. It's the corridor we have taken, which even if we talk about standard gauge railway, you find that many people have taken corridors. Whether it's in Aberdare, we took the corridors of the wildlife. That is why animals will find animals in our shambas, you know. So there are many issues. But for me, the most important thing in the budget, if we want to be serious, let us first agree this budget must be an itemized budget.
Yes.
Let the members see
line
item of your projects, so that they can see, is this worth it for now, or can we stop it? Because one of the things, it is a very huge document, not itemized, and so you are given small figures. And you know, one of the issues you'll want to wonder, why do you bring small figures? Because you know people will get tired and they won't be looking at these figures.
Yes.
Yeah, and you bulk the figures. So why can't we itemize our budgets based on what we are collecting as revenue? So that if, for example, Nairobi County, you are saying you want a budget of 35 billion. But when I look at your end year, you've only collected 10 billion or 9 billion, and the national government is giving you 15 billion. Why can't you have a realistic budget of 25 billion? And then if you collect more, the law gives you a right to come and just do a supplementary budget and say, I have collected more, we are able to do 1, 2, 3. So I'm bringing in a supplementary budget for us to proceed and do other things. That will be the best way to do it. The other thing we need to ask ourselves, even as we fight with this national cake, we have to remember the Constitution gave the counties all the right to ensure your revenue that is local revenue. It is your money. Ask yourself, for example, the County Council of Narok used to be the most richest, I'm just giving an example, richest. It will even give money, OleKina. If they were able to sustain themselves with all, and they would pay their members of council then,
there'd be a lot
and
of
now
money.
you have been told this is your money, you are collecting it. It doesn't come to national government. You collect a loan, put it in your account, and use it for development. This time around, we don't have. Yet, there are more avenues of collecting revenue, yet you have less revenue you're collecting. Where is the money going?
That's the $1 million question.
Yes.
Not even shilling anymore.
So you find there's a lot of loopholes in even losing the revenue we have, especially the ones in county governments.
I agree.
We lose a lot of money. That is another thing. Now, lastly, then now let us come to these projects, because there is doing projects and there is doing projects for posterity. That if I do a road, 100 years to come, Mbagathi Road, I wish we just even do like Mbagathi.
Benchmark.
They say it is expensive, but it is a road I have never seen a pothole. So why couldn't we just do with our cement? God has given us cement. We do the way we do that road, and we do many roads that way. They are expensive, but you will not spend more money again. Now look at what we do. We do 6 months, the rain is here, the potholes are back, we're gonna redo again. Why can't
There's an example you want to refer us to?
Yes.
Page what? Page 6 of the Daily Nation?
Page 6 of the Daily Nation.
Okay. What's
Now,
going on there?
Parliament is asking, and I know the President asked this in Bomet, and he was not happy about it, that if one equipment of the CT scanners that we were buying was supposed to cost 75 million, why did we vary it to 235 million?
I'll tell you why.
And let me give you an example when Mheshimiwa...
Briefly, he seems to have the answer to your question.
I have a young girl, professor, doctor. She works in the US, but she's a Kenyan. Came here, brought in, donated the dialysis machines to Kenyatta National Hospital. Then she requested, can we be able to train the nurses to be able to use this facility? She was dodged and dodged and dodged and dodged until she gave up. She left them with the machines and left back to Atlanta. She told me, if the president is really serious about universal health, we have very many young doctors out of the country who would wish to support him. But we have been frustrated with the system. Even when we want to just donate, come in and do our health programs to just support Kenyans, they came here, a whole team. Can you imagine a whole team of surgeons have come in to just do a health camp, a free health camp of serious nerve diseases? And you find Kenyans are spending money going to India. They sat here for 1 week. In the team was an Ethiopian doctor. When he realized Kenyans don't want this, he took it to Ethiopia.
Yeah.
And they were welcomed in 1 day
Let me add another project before you come in. Page 9 of the Standard, a multi-billion shilling food security investment by a member of the Saudi Arabia royal family at the Kenyan coast has stalled due to fraud claims and wrangles. A decision by the DPP to drop criminal charges against 2 individuals accused of attempting to defraud the Saudi prince of the 33 billion agro-farm project has added a new twist. So this was an investor that would have made the coast in many ways food sufficient. The days of taking food supplies to the coastal counties should have ended, but clearly this doesn't seem to be the case. Come in.
No, I think, first of all, let me put it this way. And I was making some notes when my sister was talking here. And the first thing that I wanted to raise is that we have a very big problem where when you look at the defarmed county councils, they used to really do a lot of work on their own. And they never expected money from anywhere else. But now we've got this equitable share. We've got this, marginalization fund. And so you find that people, if they have somewhere else they're getting money, they sort of like tend to relax on how to be able to collect their money. There is also a very, very big capacity problem. A lot of the county officers that we've been talking to, I sit in the Public Investments and Account Committee of the Senate, is that we realize that a lot of these officers, and I hope that Beatrice, you can train your officers to be able to familiarize themselves with the Public Finance Management Act. A lot of them do not know what it is required, how you are able to collect the money, how you should be able to assign a revenue collector, and what the law says in terms of how the money should be remitted into the county government. So that's one of the biggest problems that we have to identify, admit that we have that problem. When we're sitting down with the Isiolo County, and it was shocking, because they have a contract with one local company and they were actually flouting the Public Finance Management Act. So that is the first thing that we've got to go back so that we know where this line item budget can be able to help. So that's number one. The issue of our projects that we do on roads, I agree. We had a very good example. Maybe I don't support the, that road?
Mbagathi.
The Mbagathi. It's too noisy. And sometimes that noise can be able to affect people. There are new technology. You know, there's something called road packers, which is a chemical added into the soil, and you don't even need to put bitumen. You can just, you know, and I'll show you. I mean, it's used in Russia, it's used in Germany, it's used in other parts of the world. And when we get into road packer, it can be able to really help us. Now, when we come to the issue of medical equipment.
She's still recovering from the fact that you said the road is too noisy.
It's too noisy.
And
then, you know, we'll discuss that later.
Yeah.
You know, some of us don't even drive our cars into our homes because of the pollution. We leave them outside the gate. You know, so it depends on your interest and taste.
Yeah. Okay.
The issue of medical equipment, we have it completely wrong. In fact, I really have a lot of respect for one former governor, Isaac Ruto. Isaac Ruto refused to sign the leasing of equipment, medical equipment, to the memorandum for leasing equipment, because we are leasing equipment and the president means well. I have a lot of respect for the president and the deputy president. They mean very well. But us, the people who surround them, are the ones who cut deals with all these companies such that it is now more expensive to lease than to own. Because when you traverse this country of Kenya, you go to all the hospitals. We have 11 level 5 hospitals. They are not equipped properly, yet we've signed millions of dollars worth of leases. So when the president is asking, why are we varying a CT scan to 235 million, it's because it's been advised that let us not buy it this way, let us lease. But leasing is expensive. Because when you lease, if you lease a vehicle, the first thing we have to ask ourselves is, do we have enough legislation to be able to govern the leasing of equipment? Because if I lease a TV for my house, if that TV breaks down, the owner, the person who leased me the equipment, should come and take it and bring me a new one. So we've got a lot of issues. I mean, look at the issues of even laptops, for instance, which my sister has spoken about a little bit, that we went out and we said we are giving schools laptops. When you look at the issue of electricity, we have not distributed electricity entirely. We have schools which the government says that they have electricity, but when you go on the ground, they do not have. So the biggest problem we have is, first of all, understanding our need. We might be living beyond our means. I think we Kenyans have an affinity of living beyond our means. You know, you want to be seen, you know, driving a Lexus, yet you can't afford to fuel it. You know, you want to be seen having all this equipment. Go to all the hospitals we have in this country
and see what's
see what is there.
Can I read a couple of SMSs here, guys? You need to see this. I asked Kenyans if they're ready to declare their wealth. Some say they are. One has even started. He says, lifestyle audit, yes, Mwaura. My name is, I'm going to hide his name for now. He's the head of security at a leading airline in this country. He says, everything I and my extended family have, including, I can account for them shilling by shilling. I have fought corruption all my life. It makes me sick in this country. All rich people were and in corridors of power. You have to be in the corridors of power to get rich in Kenya.
No, that's not true.
That's what he believes. So sad. Let me read a couple more. Lifestyle audit should have been yesterday for every Kenyan citizen. This is Karia Mburi Meroiri from Meru County. Somebody from Nyamira, John Onsoti, says, corruption and high offices. When you report, no action.
Yeah.
People sitting on their jobs should go home, call me later. This is John Onsoti from Nyamira. I don't know what I'm going to what he's asking me to call him for. Abdul Kadir Hussein, I beg your pardon for that. Lifestyle audit may help determine one source of funds. The mandatory wealth declaration formed by the legislature, the executive branch, and the judiciary is the starting point for audit. When the declared wealth and actual wealth differ, that should be the audit starting point. And others are texting me the names of their governors. I won't give the name here, but they are saying, come and audit my governor who has built a palace worth millions of shillings. Where did he get the cash? His brothers are now riding high with good homes. Let us agree with the president on his fight on corruption. My children will never get jobs because it is the highest bidder to be employed. Honorable Elachi.
Well,
can you respond before the good senator picks up?
The sentiments, yeah.
Those are some of the feelings.
I can see, yeah. And as a country, that's why I was saying, it is very sad that, and I also feel for my president. He has good intentions to see that we move to the next level, we finish corruption. But every one of us, even all of us, because we must accept it is something in us, we lie so much to our president. Even when we are giving him info, we lie. You tell the president, because you know...
You tell him that this machine's cost
this. And by the time, he will not follow up. There's so much he has to follow as the president.
Yes.
By the time he's coming back, he realizes what we have just done wrong. We have, because now people, he sits down in a meeting somewhere and is wondering, in my country, how did I do that one? How come this one has done this way? You know, and it really hurts him. And even the other commands he gives, you find people telling him, oh, we will do this, Your Excellency, we have done this. But because you will not open the boxes, I want to tell my president, when you go, even if it's this title deeds, when they tell you, you are giving out 50,000 or 100,000 title deeds, you have many officers there. You would rather tell them, we shall give more than 2,000 people that day. And I will start, and so you'll follow, give 100, give 100. You will be shocked. You might find you will only give 20, and then they'll tell you, they'll start giving you a story.
Yes.
So can you start beating on this? When they tell you, don't even tell them how many you want, but give yourself time, because that was your function, and say, I want to see all the elderly here given. I am living here when my mothers and my fathers, who I see are elderly here, have gotten their document. But when you just give a few and you leave, oh my God, behind the scenes, you get surprised.
What's going
Kenyans
on?
Start crying.
Let me,
they will stay even for 2 years.
let me pick up from there.
As you
because
pick
I
up
don't
from
want
there,
to,
also tell us, Big Four, the ministries that are to implement the Big Four.
big mistake. Okay. Now,
Okay,
let me first of all,
why is it a big
and
mistake
I'll
now?
tell you, my dear sister. Let me start with this issue of the title deeds. Topoti adjudication section in Narok North constituency. The president went there and said, we're going to give everyone here title deeds. They were not all given, you know. And the Ministry of Lands should pull up their socks and go to Narok before I get into their office and really unleash all these mess which is happening, because the people of Topoti adjudication section up in Narok North need their title. The president went there, and just like what my sister is saying here, only a few were given titles.
So he made some sort of
He said everyone should be given title. No, not everyone were given title. So that's number one. Number two, let us go to the issue of even the judiciary. When the former Chief Justice was in office, this was Willie Mutunga, I picked up a very big fight about the Narok Court. When the Narok Court was approved to be done, go back to the issue of the budget. The approval was 20 million. That was in 2007. Okay? When, after the post-election violence, the project stalled, and it was only a wall remaining to be completed. Then when I followed it, now the contract was varied to 120 million. These are facts. Okay? After it was varied for 20 million, I put up a big fight about it, the Narok judiciary. It was brought down to 60 million. When I threatened to rally the Masais to go to the Senate and to go to Parliament to put the judiciary in check, guess what? They went there. They said, okay, now we're handing over to a contractor. It has never been completed. That is another fight that I'm willing to pick up with the current Chief Justice to make sure that those people in the judiciary who did not do that, because the judges are suffering. You find a judge sitting in a small, tiny little wooden house, yet there's already the money that has been sent, that's been spent is about 80 million shillings. Why are we punishing those judges? Why are we punishing even the people who are suspected of having committed crimes, sitting down in a place full of rodents and you name it? Yet there is a big building that could be completed here. This issue of the division of revenue bill that I spoke about here last week, where the Senate, instead of being given an opportunity to scrutinize it and say these are the problems we have, like we have a lot of money coming in the form of conditional grants. The Auditor General, and my sister here knows, does not audit those conditional grants. These are avenues for...
Does the law limit him or...
I mean, it's just that this money is coming from abroad and, you know, it is not part of the equitable share.
Okay.
And probably maybe the law limits in some way.
Okay.
But I said, as long as I'm in the Senate, I will do my best to ensure that the Senate is not reduced to become a stamping authority where we just stamp, we just rubber stamp. I mean, there's a lot of money which is being put towards saving our water towers. The Mao forest was not part of the project to be implemented. It is Cherangani Hills, it is Mount Elgon. But there's forests, Kakamega forests, they are not there. What exactly are we doing? So the issue is now, let's go to the Big Four agenda.
Kakamega
The issue,
is there. We have
no, it is not. It is not. When you look at the division of revenue bill, which I have looked at it, it is only two. It is one, it is Mount Elgon, and the other one that I just said.
And I think that is
the other one that
wrong.
I said. And it is wrong.
Because this is the only tropical forest we have in the
Mao
country,
forest.
Kakamega.
You know,
Only.
she will fight for Kakamega. I will support her.
Yeah.
You know, but I'm also saying Mao
fair.
forest. You know, this is where we depend on. You know, I mean, I don't want to start the debate of kicking everybody out because that one has got to be done, number one. But we've got to protect it. And I'm actually very happy, and I congratulate the 14 counties that form the Lake Region Basin for having taken Mao Forest as their #1 project to be able to conserve it.
Tell me about the Big Four.
Now let's
briefly.
go to the issue of the Big Four project.
Briefly.
Let me tell you, we've got a huge gap, a skills gap, okay? Because when you look at, let's go to Narok for instance, and you say we want to build what? 1,000 homes. The kind of skills that we have on the ground will not be able to match the kind of houses that we want to do. The kind of people who will be given those contracts are not people from Narok. If we are talking about the Big Four, we need to be able to ensure that everyone is benefiting. So the first thing we ought to do is to carry out a sincere audit on the skills that we have on the ground.
Okay.
How many masons do we have? How many carpenters do we have? You know, how many casual laborers do we have? How many plumbers do we have? The problem we have in this country is that we have a lot of jobs in this country, but because of the skills gap, then we are not able to
So it's only a select few who get to
only
do
a select
all these
few
jobs.
That is why you can see a lot of Chinese are here hawking in the streets. They are coming in, they are becoming plumbers. Look, we are investing so much into the oil and gas industry. We should be empowering our polytechnics to be able to train our youth on plumbing jobs, electrical jobs, so that they can be able to do this job. So if the president really wants to do these ministries, what the ministries ought to do first is to carry out an audit of all the skills they have on the ground. Then from there, sit down and say, what are we going to do in terms of devolution? You know, and ensure that it is not just an authority where people are chosen from the national government. Involve the CEC in charge of housing. You've got a CEC in charge of housing in the county level. You know, involve that person so that they can be able to have local people working there.
Fair enough, fair enough.
Let me just talk about
final
that.
comment,
for
please.
me, I think the most important thing, as he talks about skills, which is very important, is that embrace companies that will come and say, you want to do housing, we are giving you 1.5 years, we put in an industry, we get young people, and the world is going to prefabricated, and I think we need to embrace that also. And we have people from Germany, but the moment you bring, they come here, they find a lot of bottlenecks because those who want these entrepreneurs are the ones who just block these very good ideas that they want to support the president. A team came, they want to support the president, they're saying, we come in first, you give us 1.5 years to put up the industry, where you will get your materials, where we train the young people, so that when you're going on the ground to build these houses, you are able to have a team that will also support in building. They understand, they have the skill. The Turkish have also said that, but because there's not entrepreneur, you will find we will throw them out. My president will run with this proposal. It's a very good proposal, but I believe, I have faith the president will achieve, because in the end of the day, we let him just even invite people, investors to come and present, present to you good ideas without using, just invite and let them come, present, take time and listen. After that, it is you will decide, I think I have a good proposal from Germany.
Let me just add on this one. This is
one minute, please.
I think when we go into the issue of tenders, for instance, there is a current bill in the Senate, the energy, which is a local content bill sponsored by Senator Gideon Moi. This is an amazing bill. And this bill lapsed in the last Senate, in the last Parliament. It was passed by the Senate. I think what we need to do, really, and I think this is what the President ought to do, is now to say, members of Parliament, you know, both in the Senate and in the, what we call the lower house or the National Assembly, for instance, your number one job is to pass legislation as enshrined in the Constitution. You need to draft this legislation and move them. What is the point of us in the Senate coming up with legislation and then they are killed in the National Assembly? What is the point of the National Assembly coming up with legislation and then they are killed in the Senate? If we pursue this local content bill, yesterday we were last week we were making a recommendation that when you come in and you apply for a tender, as an international company, maybe if we do not have the skills locally to be able to do, the first thing we need to see in the tender is that how much of your profits are you going to invest in the local, for local content. Local content, extending it further to an issue of even CSR, employing local people, and how local are you going to be? So if you say, oh, I do not have local people, let's do what Beatrice is saying. You come in, you have a grace period of about 6 months to a year, train the local content, build up the local skills so that they can be able to facilitate that contract. This issue where we're just giving out tenders and tenders and tenders and tenders, yet local people cannot be able to benefit, it makes people apprehensive. It makes people say, look, I mean, this company is coming here, it's building, you know, the railway is passing through my area and I'm not working. And it causes a lot of problems. So I think if we are really ready to fight corruption, we must fight corruption even in the tendering process, where even the tender itself, let's pass these laws, you know, ensure we've done our job in the Senate and National Assembly, please pick up, you know, pull up your socks and let's do that work.
Fair enough.
Don't kill legislation. And then also, the media also plays its role, you know, like, I'm sorry to bring this up, but I will. And I've already apologized before I bring it, so you'll excuse me for that. The media, the other day I was reading in the paper, they were saying, my sister here exchanged blows with her clerk. It is not true.
Yeah, no.
I mean, I would have seen maybe a blood eye or something like that. There was nothing.
He walked in,
you know,
shouting. If he had a weapon, yes. But I think I was cool and I just said, you can't do that. Not on the corridors. And I think we turned it down.
Yeah.
But I tried playing it very cool because it is not right. And even the law does not allow us to do that. So
now you'll force me to have to ask, well, what was this all about?
Well,
you've opened a Pandora's box,
he has
Senator.
opened a Pandora's box. The issue is that for the last 2 weeks, and you know, the DCIA has been looking at different reports, and I think he has so many reports of Nairobi and all that. So he came in and he wanted to know, what is this happening?
It's about what, the Speaker's house?
Not the Speaker's house. It was about the internal audit report with the glaring issues, and the report from the Auditor General also raised a lot of questions, even the houses of Maria Kani. So he's wondering, how are we having this to recommend a whole estate to be given and people are living in? Have we valued? So he asked a lot of questions. Then he narrowed down to my clerk, and he has very serious, because he's the accounting officer, serious questions of 2015, 2016, even when I was not there. So the clerk believes I am the one who has decided to do. He doesn't look at the errors that have happened. So he thinks I am going down with him. But this is a man, as I said, if you are really clear in your mind, you just walk to the DCI. It's an investigation.
And give evidence.
You give your evidence. You say this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong. And they tell you, we feel this is right, you did wrong here. But the most important thing he has to understand, that structures must work. We must follow structures, because the nullification of my president was because of process. And from that time, I learned a lesson. You can go to jail, not because of the money you've taken, but because the process you have used to arrive to where you are going.
Allow me to make this final comment, please.
Literally one word.
My final request to the President and also to Treasury is, number one, in the Division of Revenue Bill, bring it back, let us amend it. Please include Mau Forest. Please include Kakamega Forest. Please include Abadea's Forest.
Okay.
You know, because that is the only way we are going to be able to save this country.
Thank you so much.
If you ignore Mau Forest, let me tell you, you will cry. You will continue crying, you know. And then also, when we are building our roads, just allow me to say this, when we are building our road, let us look at technology. Let us not be quick to give these briefcase contractors. Let us look at competence. Let us reward competent, you know, and merit, and not,
let me tell you this.
and not, you know, sycophancy.
Thank you.
Kirigo, let me just say this.
Wahiga.
Sorry, Wahiga.
Wahiga.
One, the president has to understand when you're fighting corruption, it will come fighting back.
Big time.
Anyone who will support him in this, we shall be mad with a lot of mad. By the time you're coming out, people will fear even to help him to fight that corruption.
Fair enough.
What is he putting in place so that the process is also speedy, that when you have this,
man.
you finish.
Okay.
Yes.
we need to wrap up. Thank you so much. I want to read some SMSs here. You don't, some of them you're giving us your names. Agri Kamba says, lifestyle audit will not solve the menace of corruption. It's very hard to audit your close friends, Mr. President. The big fish will have their way. All what you need to do is to go across to a small country called Rwanda and benchmark on what they have done. To fight corruption, somebody says,
is a very good example. Rwanda is being managed by Germans.
To fight corruption, if you still have public money, the government should take everything from you and sell it. Yeah. Then you start from zero. Let me see here. Okay, one more.
I agree with that.
Lawrence Raingo from Meru, thank you for texting us again. You say, Wahiga, the other day I told you the real meaning of IFMIS. I found money in the system. It's a bit of a joke there.